welcome to Down the Garden Path. Thanks for listening today. With me, I'm excited to introduce you to my guest, Valérie Chort. Valérie is an accomplished corporate director, sustainability leader, and co-founder of Fleur de Roy Incorporated, a specialty peony cut flower farm based in southern Ontario. And they host the largest pick-your-own peony bloom experience every year. Welcome to the show, Valérie.
Thank you for having me, Joanne. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited. As you know, when we chatted the first time, I was like, how did I not know about this peony farm? Because I just love supporting and love cut flowers, of course. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey to creating this with your nephew?
Well, I think you chose the right word. It was definitely a journey, and a bit of a surprise journey, actually, throughout the process. So I guess it started about 25 years ago when we purchased the property that we're located on, which is called Bay Lodge. It's about 150 acres located on the shores of Lake St. Clair. And of that 150 acres, 100 acres are in wetland and in marshes, so really an aspect of conservation. And we have about 50 acres that's populated by, there's forest, there's our cottages, and ultimately some agricultural land. So that was kind of the start of it all. And we bought it for conservation aspects. It was an old duck hunting lodge on the shores of Lake St. Clair. And then we decided to kind of just keep it as is and start to improve the conservation aspects of it. So that's kind of part one. Part two is my husband, Jules Roy, his sister, Denise, married and was located in France, and her nephew, Charles-André Rougeau, decided to come and stay with us. And so when he was at in the cottage, one of the cottages that we had here, his goal was to really look at what else we could do on this beautiful property instead of perhaps doing crop sharing. And so he and his father kind of stumbled upon the idea of growing peonies. Charles-André's father doing it in France, near Toulouse, and us trying it here. So kind of grew with kind of 200 plants we had purchased. I said, give it a try, and then that slowly evolved, and now we have about 12 acres in peonies and close to probably 15,000 peony plants in the ground. So that was kind of the evolution. And then we can get to it a bit later. But then the business within that also evolved. Like it's not the same business as a pick your own that it was when we first started the journey.
That's right, because initially you started like more farming, right? And providing those, like cutting it and taking it to the flower farm or the flower market.
That's right. So the initial goal was to grow peonies and then ultimately to cut them, process them, keep them in the cold, right, through kind of reefer trailers. That's what we had. And then we would ship them to the Ontario Flower Growers. We were a member of the Ontario Flower Growers, large co-op in Ontario. And we would then either sell them on the open auction or sell them in terms of just buyers to kind of wholesalers and florists. So that was what we did as the business grew year over year. And then ultimately, last year was the first year that we actually said we can't really continue in this, in that type of business. We really do need to switch it up, and for a number of reasons. But ultimately, and I'll get to those, but we ended up then trying out the concept of a pick your own last year, and it went really well, which is why you hadn't heard of us before, because last year was the first year. Last year was the first year, and from nothing, we actually then welcomed about 4,000 people to the Peony Pick Your Own, and then this year we're getting ready for our year two.
That's amazing. So and I just think about what was involved in going from that business to business versus business to consumer. I mean, one, aside from the joy of seeing directly the joy that peonies bring to the client, like to the homeowners and gardeners, right? That must have been an exciting experience.
Oh, it is. And it was the first time actually that we would ever see the field in bloom. Yeah. Right. So you just picture, 12 acres of of
Oh,
peonies in
yes.
bloom. We would have never seen that, because if we would have seen that, that would have not been a good thing when you're trying to pick them
Right.
for the purpose of selling them as a B2B. You have to, purchase them when they're in that marshmallow stage. You've got to get them in the cooler pretty quickly, and then you have to then process them and then ship them out. So we would have never seen that. So that was a big change and a big sense of joy. But then also just seeing the customers and the clients, you kind of appreciate people just love peonies, that there's a
They
real
do.
deep joy for something that's so transient, I think, right? It's such a short window of time. People really love to see them in that way. So that was actually a really big benefit for us. But ultimately, we chose to do it because we chose to do and grow only one flower here, which is a peony. And so what happens is that we quickly started to realize that the size of the farm, or the peony garden, was getting so large, and the weather in southwestern Ontario grows from kind of winter, spring to summer so quickly, and you
Yeah.
couple that with a peony that loves the heat, we could not keep up the demand of cutting them fast enough to get them into the trailer,
Mm.
cool them down, process them. Number one. And secondly, we were such a large producer. So when you're getting and shipping all of those peonies to the peony flower farm, we're almost cannibalizing our own market, because we're flooding the market, the Ontario market, with peonies at that time. So when you add such significant pressure to get the peonies off the field in a short amount of time,
Hmm.
then selling them at a market that maybe we were actually depressing the price because we were bringing so many peonies on the market.
Right.
It just didn't really make sense in that light. And thirdly, we couldn't really invest in additional, perhaps, equipment or things of that nature that might make the process more efficient, because we were only going to be amortizing that kind of investment over one
Yeah.
one flower, right? Other
Yeah.
large flower farmers that are growing perhaps lilies and dahlias and so forth, they could amortize any cost of infrastructure
Hmm.
and equipment over the
Yeah.
number of flowers that they have. So based on that, then we said, well, what is it that we could do that no one else can? And no one would really turn their flower field into a pick your own, right? That's not the business model. But we said we could do that, and we could be the largest pick your own peony flower farm in Ontario, and maybe actually, given the size, it may be actually in Canada. But I want to kind of confirm that before claiming such things. And I would say the third thing is, it's a beautiful setting. This is not like an open farm field where you don't see anything else. It is nestled in nature and trees all around, and the lake is just next to us. So it's actually a beautiful walking environment as well. So when you said, what is it that we could do differently that would be unique?
Yeah.
A pick your own would be, and that's why we said, let's then try doing that. At the time, we also had really invested in building our brand. Like, we had worked really hard in identifying what does Fleur de Roy stand for in terms of quality, community, sustainability. Those were really fundamental aspects of our values and what we stood for. And we had also, invested in a beautiful logo, a color combination. So that was important when we were doing the B2B, but it's even more important when you're doing
Yeah.
direct to customer, right? At that point, you're really able to ground anything that you do around those values that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. When it came time to, I just back up a little bit to planting the roses peonies,
Hmm.
where that came from. How did you choose the variety? Like, did a lot of work go into choosing the varieties?
It did, and the first thing that Charles actually did, because Charles André is really the master mind behind the field, the organization, ensuring that it was actually planted in a way that looked like a garden. Right, there are a lot of
Oh,
beautiful
lovely.
green. Yeah, there's a lot of really beautiful paths, grass paths between each of the rows. He also made sure that they were manageable blocks, right? So the planning behind the field is all of Charles-André's thinking. And when he first started the process, the first year we purchased peonies, probably 6 or 7 different varieties of peonies, and grew them all in one row. So, or different rows dedicated. So we had Kansas and Duchesse, Sarah Bernhard, Seashell, a number of them, to really understand, number one, because each variety is a little bit different, which ones would grow very well in the location that we had. And we actually found out that it was not really specific. Some of them are actually early bloomers, late bloomers. Some of them smell, some of them don't. So that's how we first started the process. And then we chose from some of those varieties to then reproduce them and then go from one row to one block of 600 plants. And then we grew them in that way. Yeah, so that it could be efficient from the point of view of harvesting. So you harvest a whole block of, let's say, Festiva, and then you might harvest a whole block of Duchesse, right, in terms of the progression, because they will progress faster, right?
Yeah.
Now, that being said, when if you were to grow the field for a picuron, you wouldn't grow it in the same way, right? Because now we have large blocks that are dedicated to specific colors. And now what we're trying to do is actually remove some of the plants within those and plant new kind of one-offs from different plants. So it's a bit of a surprise for the customer the client that might discover a new variety amongst, a whole block of Duchesse. So they might, discover a new sorbet, a different color or something. So trying to integrate the element of surprise within these blocks, because ultimately if you were to grow a picuron, you'd probably make sure that you'd have a little bit more variety within the field. But now we have about, I'd say, 15 to 16 different varieties.
Which I think that's a good number. And I think, I don't know, I guess I might be biased because I just like the solid color bouquets, like versus a mixed bouquet. So I kind of feel like, especially for peonies, people kind of like that,
That's
solid
true.
color, that show. Because when you see them, even the well done, I think peonies are common in decor as like artificial, right? You see them well done, and usually it's always a bouquet of solid, colors versus a mix. Like some other wildflowers and other things, you can mix it up, but and even with
true.
weddings, right? I'm sure with wedding, we'll talk a bit more about the wedding aspect of it, but the bouquets, I'm sure, are tend to be, I don't know, solid colors, like the same, choosing a flower like Sarah Bernhardt and knowing that that's the color that they want. So
that's true. And I think it was another flower farmer who had actually solicited her clients to identify, would you rather a solid color bouquet, or would you like a multicolor? And most people, as you said, Joanne, like a solid color bouquet. I would say for the most part, people mix maybe two colors, 3 colors, right? Just depending on how many bouquets they come up with. So it's a bit of a mix, but I think you're right. I think people do have a preference, and also you can get overwhelmed when you have too many different varieties. People don't know how to choose.
Yes, that's an issue too. And I think peonies are unique in the sense that depending on how much they're open, they are slightly different color. Do you know what I mean? Like initially it could be right, and they really do change as they open. So I think that kind of
coral charm does that. Yeah.
So I think that makes it very interesting. But and now I've heard that it takes about 5 years in the ground before you really can start harvesting. Is that something you found? Like when you planted, was it that long of a cycle?
It is. It's definitely a commitment, right? When you're growing peony, so we would buy our roots, plant the roots in the fall. So and then the first year one, all you do is cut the heads, right? You do that for the first 2 years. So the first time that you might actually harvest something for sale would be year 3. And even that, you really do need to look at your plant. If you only have 3 or 4 of the peony plants only have really good 3 or 4 stems, we cut them. We don't harvest them. There's so much energy that goes into the production of a flower. We will only cut the heads and make sure that they have that whole other year to actually grow and grab nutrients through their leaves and through photosynthesis. So we really want to maintain, and our goal was to build to grow a really strong, thriving plant, right? So you're right. So the kind of investment in the ground, you're only really recouping on that investment year 4, and then it starts to grow. And then if you really take care of your plant, you're rewarded, right? So you start plant in year 4, you might have 3 to 5 stems. Now we have Duchesse that might have between 40 and 50 stems on that one plant, and different varieties produce differently. Sarah Bernhardt is a very good producer. So is Duchesse de l'Amour. We have easily 40 to 50 plants on our stems on our plants that are now about 6 years old.
Wow. Yeah, and that is incredible. So the deadheading, is it more like deadheading that you're doing in the first couple of years? You said cutting off the head.
We
and that's just heads. But so you're not cutting, because you obviously want the leaves and want it to fill out for photosynthesis, right, so that they mature. But do you feel like that does help contribute? Because that could be a lesson for our home gardeners who wait for peonies and they get 2 blooms, that really, doing that and doing some pruning can encourage a stronger plant.
Oh, it does. And it's hard to do. I put myself in people who just bought their peony plants. They put them in the ground the following year. They're excited because they have a flower. And we tell them, cut it off. Like it is heartbreaking. Or if you have, let's say 3 or 5, just pick one and cut off the rest. And, it's a multi-year kind of commitment to your plant, but that really pays. You're paying it forward. Also, a peony is pretty hungry, so you have to fertilize.
Okay.
It's a hungry plant. Yeah. Yes. Apart from that, it's pretty low maintenance, right? Like we don't have any irrigation or anything of that nature in the field at all. Like it's pretty hardy. Yeah.
Yes. And now we had quite the drought last year, but now we've kind of made up for it with the winter we've had. Right? So you feel like everything is progressing fine.
Yeah, so far so good. And now we're having a bout of hot weather, and then we'll see a lot of the peonies grow. But when we compare, we have pictures year over year at exactly the same dates, and we kind of compare progression of peonies.
Excellent. Okay, so tell us about. So you last year you had 4,000 people, I believe you said, for their first year. So how are you preparing for this year, and what is the process for our listeners who need to get online and get tickets? Right.
Well, the process is. It's always a bit tricky when you're an epicurean, because the hardest thing to do is know when you're going to be open. Right. Yeah. So that's always the challenge. So what we did this year, and that's a reflection on what all of our learning from last year. We learned a significant amount through the process last year. It went really well, but there was a lot of things you don't know that you don't know as you're kind of going through them. So this year, what we decided to do was open up ticket sales for the time that we know 99.9% of the time we will have peony flowers, from June 1 to June 8th. So we worked with our social media team to really build up that momentum and the excitement, and remind people that this is what they did last year. This is what we saw last year. So we created that momentum, and then we opened up ticket sales from the 1st until the 8th, and that went really well. You saw that kind of momentum grow, kind of take off, and people did buy or are continuing to buy a lot of tickets. So that's kind of the planning, kind of the social media planning, call it, right? So, and we'll continue to do that. We'll plan out, kind of things for Mother's Day, just to remind people this is a great gift for Mother's Day. And then we will start to add tickets as we get closer into the actual season, right? That's when we'll know. Can we open up on? Last year we opened up on the 30th, that first weekend, so that was fine. So we hope that we can perhaps open up a little bit earlier, and obviously stay a little bit later. So that was a big change. That's a change from this year. Just opening up a block of tickets earlier. We're also working and getting our liquor license to have like a refreshment tent, which we're calling a bubbly tent, so people can come and grab some alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. And I'm just working now to identify partners for that process so that we can kind of feature wines that are or ciders that are in the local area.
Absolutely.
And then, yeah. And then we're also, it was interesting because we're located just adjacent to Mitchell's Bay, which is another small community, and now working in partnership with like the little local restaurants that are there, or, other hotels and restaurants that are in Chatham, to kind of build out what's your perfect day, right? So we have a lot of data around, because when people buy tickets online, we do have a sense of their postal code. So we know how far people have come for the Peony flower farm. And so then we can kind of look at making it easier for people, right? What we know is that people love to make it easy for their planning. So if they're coming from Windsor, from Toronto, from Sarnia, or from London, if they want to stay over, like, where do I stay? If they want to eat, if they want to have a luncheon or whatever, that's something that we're working on as well. And then hiring, we had so many compliments on the team and how excited they were and how helpful they were. So I spend a lot of time along with Charles-André in hiring a lot of the local kids and university and college students, or people in the area that are really close by. And also we give them a lot of coaching on, if it's their first job, how do you get your resume down pat? How do you interview well? All those types of techniques, so that they can also really benefit from not only a short summer kind of spring job, but also kind of learning skills moving forward. So those are things that we're focusing on now.
Excellent. That's the business leader in you, right? You want to pass on and
that's right.
Generation.
Yeah, because so I benefited from that, and you want people to benefit from other people coaching them, and I don't want to call it mentoring them, but just giving them some guidance on how to do this well. Yeah.
And I think I grew up with those types of summer jobs as well, and I think that really is beneficial, and that's something that is harder to find for the young adults these days. Don't you agree? Like,
it is.
It
is. And that's what they tell me too, right? They'll say, I've searched everywhere, or people are not hiring. And I do think it's because the summer jobs and the kind of part-time jobs are actually being taken by people who are working 2 to 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Right. So the entry jobs, or the kind of learning jobs, are less available. I hear that from all the students that I interview.
Yeah. And I think that type of customer service job is also very valuable. And I don't think they realize it until, I know many may start out like, I just need a job, but that type of job, and hopefully you've converted some into the industry of horticulture too, right? Because that's something that you don't know. I mean, I know myself, I didn't know that would eventually be my passion until I was in it,
Yeah.
So,
teaching them,
and
teaching them the business of it. Right? So ultimately, if I sell this stem for X dollars, like, how do I know I need to sell it for this price? Like, how do I know I'm pricing my entrance ticket at whatever, $25 or $30? Like, what goes into that? So kind of just having those discussions with them helps them realize that this is how you ultimately decide on pricing. It was interesting because sometimes I'll hear, in the initial times, you'd have a group of them, 10 or so chatting away, talking. And so I would say, the 10 of you chatting for a half hour, how much does that cost? Right? How much does that translate into? You guys need to pick X more of stems for me to make up on that. I was saying it in a way that said, okay, get back to work, but also, this is the reality, right? This is a business. So it is funny to make them kind of realize in that way. Yes.
So let's talk about the entrance. So how does the process work that day? Obviously you want people purchasing ahead, right? You don't want people just showing up the day of.
That's right. That's right. So we our limiting factor actually is parking.
Ah,
Right. So we had created a parking area because we had that space for when we rented large reefer trucks. So we had 6 or 7 reefer trucks in a row where we would harvest, put them in, cool them down. Then we have 2 other reefer trucks that were actually processing, where we cut them to stem, package them by, pails of 50. And then the last 2 reefer trucks were our shipment trucks. We would then ship them out, label them, and then they would get driven to Toronto probably once or twice a week. So that was kind of the process. So we had the big parking area for that, but then we needed to convert that and make sure that we had enough cars. So based on the number of cars that we have in that we can accommodate through the parking lot, that was the basis for which how many people could we take by time slot. So the platform that we use, it's called Ticket Spice. It can accommodate Ticket Spice. It's quite a good, and they actually, it's a quite a good platform to use. We book out, we allocate the specific days, and then we have a time slot, so people can come in from 9 to 12, 12 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9. So we decided to do 4 blocks, and then 200 tickets are sold per block, or that's how it works. So then we can control that aspect, and then we can also control the people that come in and come out, because some people come in right at 9 a.m. Some people stroll in at 10. It typically takes, people spend about 2 hours in the field. That's kind of what we've seen, and so you have a bit of a flow, so that manages also the potential constraint that you have people staying all the way to the end and people coming in early. And then we would run into kind of an overlap. Yeah. We didn't run into that last year. And I think it's a lot because of this type of 3-hour window that we have, right? So that's how people kind of enter. We did have people who just were coming by and they hadn't bought their tickets, and we can accommodate them if we have space in the field for them. So we had people who kind of showed up at the last minute and did it that way. And then ultimately, people drive in, and so that's where we really found that we needed to plan out every single station. So if somebody's welcoming them at the front, 2 people are helping them park, 2 people are helping in the check-in tent for their tickets. Then we have people at the back that have give them an orientation of the field, and we hand them out their cutters. And then we have people who are at the checkout, take back the cutters, wrap up the bouquets that they have, and then they walk out, and then we fill their buckets with water at the end so that they can get the ride home. So that's kind of the process, and it works pretty well.
Excellent. So you want them bringing their own bucket?
Yes. Yeah, we do. If people, and so people will underestimate what they need. So sometimes people just bring a little vase, and we cool them down, and we have some buckets for sale just in case people are traveling. If people are traveling back to London and they just have a little bit, then we encourage them to get a bucket so that they can actually make sure that their flowers are lasting. We also, help them coach how to pick flowers if they want flowers to last a little bit longer. Everybody wants a big bouquet, but we also encourage them to take some that are a little bit more closed. We show them the trick as well, right, to wrap their flowers if they have a large bouquet and they want to keep some of them for a longer period of time. There's the real trick where you can wrap your flowers in, you dampen, I don't know if you know that trick, Joanne.
I know you can put them in the fridge, but what's your trick? Yeah.
Well, the trick it's that trick as well. So you would take your stem for any flower that's in a marshmallow stage. It really can't be open. It has to be in a marshmallow stage. I wrap them in newspaper. I dampen the newspaper, wrap them individually, or maybe 2 or 3 per bunch. Wrap them up, and then I put them in a plastic bag, tighten it, and then lay them flat on the bottom of your fridge, not too close to the back in case they freeze, but just really in the on top of the fruits and vegetables.
Crispers.
The crispers. Yeah, I put them there, and then you can I take a bunch out, maybe a week later or 2 weeks. I've done it until probably 6 weeks, and they were still good.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
exciting. Okay,
yeah,
I didn't know. I pictured putting them in a vase in the fridge, so that's great to know it to do it that way. So good.
yeah. In a
That's an
vase in a fridge
excellent
is
tip.
good if you want to, or ice cubes in your water at night is also a good
Hmm.
trick. If you have your
Just
bouquet ready and it's the one that's open on your in your house or something, then
yes.
yeah, in the fridge is good too. It just slows them down, which is what you want, right, for your peonies.
Hmm. Yeah. So are the amount that they can cut connected to the ticket, or is the ticket the entrance fee, and then there's a certain price range for cut for what they've purchased?
The ticket allows you the 3 hours in the Peony Bloom Festival, and you get 10 peonies. And the
Okay.
ticket is for this year, 25 during the week and 30 during the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Now,
you
if you
do
want
need a
more than
ticket.
10, yeah,
Yeah,
what happens if you want more
yeah.
than
If you
10?
want, then it's $3 a stem.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's completely fair. Like that's completely
yeah,
excellent.
yeah. It works for sure. Yeah, for sure. It's
Because
fair.
you can't put a price on that experience, though, I think, to see how many peonies did you say you have in the field?
Well, we have 12,000 plants, so we must
Plants.
have. I've got it. We've got to do the count. I think it's about 350 to 400,000 easily.
Which just must be an incredible sight.
It is.
So
It
yeah,
is.
absolutely worth the price of admission just
Yeah.
for that visual.
And
So,
you
and
walk through the rows.
I'm planning on coming, so
Oh, you
I'm
need to
really
come,
looking forward
Joanne.
to it. Yeah,
And you walk through
yeah.
the rows, and you can smell, because the more mature peonies are at the very end. So as you're walking up the smaller peonies that we have planted recently, as you walk, you can, and the wind is coming this way, you can smell the peonies. It's really amazing, I must
That
say, and I get amazed every time I see it. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. But it must be wonderful to watch your vision come to fruition, like last year, and then even more so this year. Now that you've got so much experience behind you, and you said the community is as you're going to have more things in the community as well.
That's right. We're trying to make it much more of a community feeling. So we have some of the local florist, one in particular, comes and she does workshops. So she has an area where she'll do a workshop for flower arranging. So people come to the field, pick their peonies, and then she arranges. You learn how to arrange your peony flowers. So that's one type of workshop. We also partner with a group called Love Local, and I think last year they had a couple of tents just to showcase artists in the area. And I think we're looking at something a little bit different in terms of perhaps painters that might just be in different parts of the
Oh, that's a
field.
lovely
And
idea.
people love to kind of look at other artists do some of their work, so
Hmm.
things of that nature. And then we'll set
Yeah.
up a lot of little bistro tables and parasols. We felt that was really important if people wanted to kind of sit down and kind of enjoy the flowers and have a bit of shade, because there are some areas of shade, but a large portion is also
Mm.
sunny.
Well,
So
sun.
you want to make
Yeah.
sure that people are feeling comfortable as well. So kind of those are kind of things that we just learned from last year. People want to bring picnics, they can, but they need to take everything. We don't have any garbage cans and so
Oh,
forth.
okay.
And so people need to take their things back out and put them in their car.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
nice to do that too. And do you also encourage, let's say, wedding planners or florists or brides to come as well? Is that an aspect where?
They can come, and so florist. Last year we would do a lot of the cutting for orders. I don't think we'll have time because it gets really busy. So, but we have a lot of florists or other growers that perhaps are not growing peonies. They can come in and they just cut. We had one who cut it at least like close to 500 to 1,000 stems over the course of the season. So they can come in and cut as they wish. And then we have photographers come in as well for photos. And we've just kept it simple. A photographer, buys a ticket for a specific time slot, and then they arrange to have their clients show up during their time slot.
Oh,
So it's just easy. We don't kind of get in the
yes.
way of saying, oh, this is the night, and then, gee, what happens if it rains? So we just have people kind of organize themselves in that way, and that seems to work. Yeah. We
Excellent.
do get asks about events like weddings and so forth, but we will not do a wedding there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a whole different business.
It's a whole different business model. So you mentioned briefly the weather. So that is, as a landscape designer and in people's gardens and in my own, that can be a challenge with peonies. It's not something that grows, has a long growing season, even in perfect weather.
Yeah.
So that is probably one of your biggest challenges, right? Is like you said, we don't know when they're going to start to bloom, but we also don't know if it's going to rain or if it's going to get too hot too quickly. That is kind of the challenge, isn't
That's a
it?
challenge. And last year we were lucky. Last year it probably rained once, and towards the end of the season, like really rained. If it rains and it's the beginning when they're just starting to open, that's not a big deal.
Right.
The flowers do well in that, but it's when they're very open, right? They collect a lot of water in
Yeah.
that area. So what we ended up doing last year is kind of walking through and then cutting off the stems or the flowers that were most open and kind of cutting through that, and that seemed to work because we also had flowers that were still not open at the time or just starting. Right when Duchesse is almost all open, Sarah is just coming on stream, and Jacorma is coming up later. So you have different flowers in different fields. So we would also guide them to a different part of the field, which also worked as well. But again, like that's the challenge. The challenge is, will it be cool at night? Will it be warm? Will it rain? Right, and that's all that we can do. But typically, but we tell people it's rain or shine. So if you're coming out, you need to kind of bring
Dress appropriately.
cut your flowers. If it's thundering and so forth, we'll close that down. But if it's safe to do so, it's a walk in the garden in the rain. But most, this is a sunny spot, like southwestern Ontario. It's just sunny. Yeah.
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 And how does your so the work division between you and your nephew, and how does he feel about something that was kind of his idea and to see it come into fruition?
Oh, I think he's I have to speak for himself, but I think he is really excited about the process. And we make all the decisions together, actually. We really do. Like, even though he spends most of it, he's the person who is focused on the flowers, getting the field ready. But all of that, he loves to participate in the hiring. But he is, and really views the importance of what we stand for, the brand, the aesthetics of the field. Like we really are completely in sync with that, which is really important. And it's always a bit, you never know, right? When you're kind of entering in a business with a family member, but it's worked really well. Yeah.
Excellent. Is he on the property full time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. So that works out too.
Yes. And now you mentioned how large the property is and that you've got other kind of conservation, are there other things that you've planned for the land, or is just the fact that it's protected and owned and you're being a good steward?
I'd say what we are doing with the rest is actually renaturalizing it. Right. So we're working with partners on reestablishing natural prairie grasses, which are really beautiful. The grasses and the beautiful, the daisy flowers and so forth. All of the native plants. Right. So renaturalizing and replanting a Carolinian forest. So in this area. So any area that's not quote occupied by the peonies will start to be reestablished in that area because we have a lot of wildlife, which was another big decision in terms of what we grew. So we have a lot of deer, we have a lot of turkeys, we have obviously we're on the migratory bird path, which is why we have a lot of migratory birds in the spring and in the fall, and that's why we have two very large enclosed marsh areas and then a very large lakefront marsh. And we have tons of shorebirds, eagles, kingfishers, ducks. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So just to answer your question, we're really focusing only on peonies, and the rest, the space just is getting renaturalized.
Excellent. And deer do not like peonies,
No.
which,
They,
phew.
but they do like, we've lost a lot of small trees
Mm,
because deer do love, cedars and white
yeah.
pine and tamarack. They're kind of leaving alone. So, but we have to kind of protect those as we're learning.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Well, that's a good thing to know that that was why it was a good crop choice, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. It had to be deer resistant. It had to be a perennial. It had to be
Hmm.
easy to care for. So kind of all of the and it had to be kind of a high value crop, right? Like
Yes.
a peony
Yes.
is high value.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. We can figure out how to do that with amaryllis. That would be really good, but much harder in our
That's right.
climate.
Oh yeah.
And so you found this. What's the most rewarding thing? What are you so excited about?
Well, I think it's rewarding to run your own business. So I think
Mm,
that part of it is really
yes.
exciting, and it's a business that brings so much joy to people. I didn't really appreciate how excited people are to come and spend 3 hours. So that part of it is really rewarding, and seeing the beauty that it brings to the field. So I think all those key things are really exciting, and particular doing something for the community as well.
Yeah, I think that must be really rewarding, as doing something that's a business, but that is also a community event, I think is really exciting. And I think that is a true testament to success because the community will give back, right? And the other vendors will support you like I think it's a lovely goal and that's the benefit of shopping local, right? And I think
It is.
that's where, I'm hoping that this podcast that we can get the word out to bring more people to experience the area, even the bird watchers, like you said, and lots of things going on. So I think
Yeah.
that's exciting. I would say butter tarts. I happen to be in a family where they will travel high and low for butter tarts. So you need to find a butter tart maker
All
in there
right. Yeah,
somewhere.
that's another value add. And I must, if I had to give a shout out, I'd give a shout out to the municipality of Chatham Kent because they're really serious about helping small businesses in this way. So we've had a lot of help from them, the tourism office within there. Like you just feel like people really want to help you be successful. So that's really been amazing.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm very excited about your event. So, and all our information will be in our show notes, but they can visit your website, right? Do you want to tell us the name of their website to purchase tickets?
Website is obviously www.fleurderoy, FLEURDE, Roy, ROY.com. And
Dot
through
com.
that, you could then get access to the tickets.
Excellent, excellent. And we'll have that on our show notes as well as social media and all your social media too, which is probably gorgeous from last year. And I really wish you success in this endeavor, and I love to, if you ever want to come back and chat more about it. But I think it's very exciting, and hopefully it is the Canadian. We need to research that together about
Okay.
the only Canadian peony cut your own farm, which is
The
just an
largest, the
exciting, the
largest,
largest.
largest. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I don't think
the
we'd be the
largest.
only, but I've got to think, I'm not sure
Yeah,
how much larger we might be,
and the
if there's
next.
anything out there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Well,
Good. Well,
thank you
thanks.
very much.
Thanks, Joanne. It was a real pleasure. Thank you for reaching out.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for joining me, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this show and learning more about the Cut Your Own Peony Farm. And right now, the confirmed dates are June 1st to June 8th. But we're hoping that the season will be extended on both sides of that. So hopefully you will see some new people there, new faces. Thank you, everybody, for joining me on another episode of Down the Garden Path. Bye for now.